guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a request from an anonymous user on PayPal. Paid for request, if you like. Now, since I did that horror stream, they have contacted me and said to do this Buried Alive, the Nutty Putty cave incident. I don't know what this is. I've never heard of Nutty Putty or any sort of caving incident, so I don't know. Shout out to Real Horror, where this video is from, because when I asked them if I could use the video, they were very, very happy to let me do so. So if there's any more videos on their channel, you should go and subscribe and watch them. This is the first time I'm checking something out by them. Anyway, maybe it won't be the last. Anyway, let's check it out. Okay, Nutty Putty cave incident.
Being stuck in that position for going on 23 hours now makes it very difficult for him.
On the 24th of November 2009, John Jones, a 26-year-old medical student and devout family man, was back home in Utah with his pregnant wife and their young daughter for the holidays. During the stay, he and a group of 10 other friends and family members arranged a trip down to the Nutty Putty cave system. This was a supposed beginner's cave, located near the family's home in Salt Lake City. But the trip would quickly turn into a hellish nightmare, causing one of the most unusual and arguably terrifying deaths in caving history, leading to the Nutty Putty caves being sealed shut forever. This is the story of the Nutty Putty cave incident. Be warned, this is not a story for those with claustrophobia.
I don't have claustrophobia, but I don't like being trapped. I don't like someone holding my arms. Yeah. You know, like someone holding you down, someone holding your arms. And if you, like when I used to do building work and used to climb into crawl spaces to do stuff, I don't like being like that. I'm not claustrophobic, but I don't like being pinned, if you know what I mean.
The Nutty Putty caves, first explored in 1960, were notorious for their narrow and slippery passageways, twists and turns. The cave system is accessible by a narrow hole, just 30 inches wide, and was reported to be an extremely popular...
30 inches wide? Out there, innit? Ooh. No. I won't be going down there.
By a narrow hole, just 30 inches wide, and was reported to be an extremely popular beginner's cave, welcoming anywhere from 5,000 to 25,000 visitors a year. But after a series of high-profile rescue missions between 1999 and 2004, the cave's safety was widely and publicly called into question. All of these incidents involved people becoming stuck in the smaller passageways of the cave, including a 23-year-old man who became stuck for more than 7 hours, just meters away from the place where John Jones would find himself trapped. In another incident, a local teenager became stuck upside down for an entire night before he could be rescued.
Oh, upside down all night? No. Not for all the tea in China would I go down in that cave. And all these people who are getting stuck, that it's telling now, like the man and the kid and stuff, is that not a warning sign? Not a warning sign to not go into these things and do this.
The teenager became stuck upside down for an entire night before he could be rescued. Because of these high-profile incidents, on May 2006, the Nutty Putty cave entrance was gated and inaccessible, and for several years, local cavers, or spelunkers as they're known in the US, would battle local authorities who were threatening to close the cave for good. Officials stated that the caving system was
the Nutty Putty cave, one of Utah's most popular subterranean destination spots, may be permanently sealed unless someone steps up to assume responsibility for the safety and preservation of the site. Who's going to step up?
Ticking time bomb, and that it was only a matter of time before somebody was killed. But local spelunking groups argued that shutting the cave down would be unfair to serious cavers and that people should take more responsibility for their own safety. It's apparent from the comments and letters written into local papers that some people felt extremely passionate, even indignant, about its potential closure. One letter to Utah's oldest newspaper demonstrates this, reading, "I'm tired of the government deciding it knows what is best for us. Nutty Putty Cave has been a fun spot for me. Both of my sons now love going to that cave. I hope somebody can tell me how many people have been hurt or killed. I haven't heard of any. Possibly a sign telling of the risks involved should be placed by the cave so that we as Americans can decide for ourselves what is best." as the
I get that. If you are someone who does this for fun or for a sport or whatever, then, you know, you would be battling to get this open. But, I mean, go into a cave, small crawl spaces. Won't catch me in there. Not a chance.
so that we as Americans can decide for ourselves what is best. As the war waged on, finally, in September 2007...
See, now I'd go in there. That's fine. If it was all like that there, we could stand up and stuff, that's fine.
The caves were officially closed to the public, while a new volunteer management team was put in place. This was a last-ditch attempt to prevent the caves' complete and permanent closure. And then, finally, in March 2009, the Nutty Putty caves reopened, with a brand new cave management plan. The new plan enforced a process which required would-be spelunkers to apply for a permit 21 days before their visit, and agree to follow certain safeguarding procedures, such as having a minimum of 2 people per visiting group that were, and I quote, experienced cavers. And
Well, yeah, because if you got somebody with you and one of you gets stuck, he can either help you or go and get help. Yeah, so that makes sense.
that were, and I quote, experienced cavers. And so, it was under these circumstances that 26-year-old John Jones and his then 23-year-old brother Josh Jones, plus 9 other members of his friends and family, entered the Nutty Putty caves on the 24th of November 2009. When the group entered the cave at 8 p.m. local time, they would have been confident. Whilst John and his brother had not visited the Nutty Putty caves before, they had spent much of their childhood exploring Utah's caves.
No, that's too much. That's too... I mean, I know there's no wells touching them as such, but that's like when I'm doing jobs and underground and stuff, and I was like, no, can't.
As a small boy, John had more than once acted as a trapped victim for the Utah Cave Rescue Team, a group his father had helped found. But the reality was that John and his brother hadn't been spelunking in years, and there is a great deal of debate as to whether John and his brother could act as experienced cavers on behalf of their group. Nonetheless, for the first hour, everything went well, as the party explored the largest room in the cave, called the Big Slide. It was at this point that his brother Josh and their 2 friends challenged each other to go further on into the next part of the cave, taking on one of the most difficult to navigate areas, known as the birth canal.
No! Did you see how small that hole was? No.
Taking on one of the most difficult to navigate areas, known as the birth canal. This part of the cave is so tight that only a few people can actually access it. Eventually, the birth canal passageway opens up into a small room. Several people had become stuck in the birth canal previously, but John, a fit, healthy and slender man in his prime, wasn't worried. Heading through the passageway first, with his brother behind him, John wriggled on just his stomach down what he thought was the entrance to the birth canal. But John, unknowingly, had taken a wrong turn down an unmapped passageway via a route known as the corkscrew.
So he's supposed to go left and he's gone right? Okay.
A place where only the smallest and most flexible of cave explorers could fit. As John pushed forward, the passageway became tighter and tighter, and he became unable to turn back on himself. When he saw what looked like a small opening at the end of the crawl space, he continued on, with hopes of being able to turn around. Unfortunately, this is where things took a turn for the worse, because John was crawling head first into a 10 by 18 inch fissure that dropped straight down. What?
Oh my god. I mean, I was getting a little bit nervous for that little hole then. He dropped into a 10 by 8 inch fissure that dropped straight down. 10 by 8 inches.
First into a 10 by 18 inch fissure that dropped straight down. Worse still, John had sucked in his chest to slide past a lip of rock to get into the fissure, meaning that when his chest expanded again, he became completely trapped in an area the size of a small, front-loading washing machine. John made several attempts to free himself. It was no use. It was at this point that he began calling for his brother. When Josh finally found John, for a split second, he thought that this would be a silly story to tell later on that evening, but as he examined the situation more closely, dread settled in. Josh made several desperate attempts to free his brother, but none of them worked. In fact, he had made the situation worse. John had slid further down into the passage and was now completely upside down, with both of his arms pinned to his side, unable to move at all. It was at this point...
I feel stuck in my clothes. I mean, like that. I mean, it'd be bad enough stuck like that, stood up, but upside down. All that pressure on your head. I feel a bit weird. I feel trapped in my clothes. Hang on. Oh my God, this is horrible.
John had slid further down into the passage and was now completely upside down, with both of his arms pinned to his side, unable to move at all. It was at this point that the two brothers realised that they needed help. Josh alerted the rest of the group and left a friend to stay with John as he rushed out of the cave system to a nearby hill to get reception and call 911. Knowing help was on the way, he went back down into the cave where his brother was still pinned upside down. It would be 3 hours before help would arrive.
3 hours upside down with your arms pinned to your side. I mean, I've done jobs under cars with no jack, you know, and been like that, trying to get the thing, and I felt stuck in there. And you have to get out every now and again. 3 hours upside down, pinned. That's like your worst nightmare.
Upside down. It would be 3 hours before help would arrive. At 12:30 a.m, the first rescuer arrived on the scene. It was Susie Matola, a local volunteer who immediately rushed to the scene when she received a message on her pager. Right away, Susie realised that John's predicament was much, much worse than she had thought. She knew she had to keep John calm, and so she greeted him and told him that he'd be out in no time, and not to worry, to which John replied, "Hi Susie, thank you for coming, but I really, really want to get out." Susie tried absolutely everything she could think of to pull John out, including cutting off part of his jeans to free up some space, but after 2 hours, Susie was exhausted and unsuccessful. She was forced to crawl...
Another 2 hours on top of the 3 hours that it was already in there.
After 2 hours, Susie was exhausted and unsuccessful. She was forced to crawl back up to the surface where, at this point, both his wife and his daughter and around 30 rescuers had arrived on the scene. There, a very concerned but calm group were brainstorming plan after plan. They discussed everything, from breaking John's legs to lubricating the walls with several gallons of oil. But eventually, they decided upon a system of ropes and pulleys to hoist John out, legs first. This pulley system would be aided by drilling some of the rock around him to create more space. Members of the rescue team made their way to John with the equipment, but they ran into problems. The rock wasn't coming away quickly enough, and removing what did come away from the wall was proving impossible to do safely, not least of which because the rock was falling back down onto John.
Oh my God. So they're trying to drill that bit where he said he expanded his chest, and then he de-inflated his chest and then expanded it to get through. They're trying to break that rock away, but when they're knocking it away, it's falling into there as well where he is, making him more stuck because it'll all compact round him, won't it? Oh my God, I feel stuck, even though it's not me. Oh, this is another reason why I would never go into one of them caves. Oh, I feel a bit weird because it makes me feel like I'm putting myself in this situation, and it makes me feel stuck, even though I'm not.
Safely, not least of which because the rock was falling back down onto John. Back at the surface, the rescue team, now in their hundreds, were all becoming increasingly concerned. Things were moving slowly. Each trip to pass a piece of gear to John's location, 700 feet deep within the cave, took an hour, and only one person could ascend or descend down the passageway at a time.
Wow, an hour at a time, only one person at a time. I mean, this is got to be going on 10, 11, 12 hours or something now, hasn't it? Oh my God. I mean, being stuck for 10 minutes, that'd have done me. 10 seconds would have done me.
And only one person could ascend or descend down the passageway at a time. To make matters worse, when rescuers told on-site trauma surgeon Doug Murdoch that John was upside down, Doug made the team aware that this likely meant that John would only have 10 hours before his organs would fail. The human body is designed to be upright. The heart works with the force of gravity, and if it can't, blood and fluids quickly begin to pool in the brain and lungs, and eventually it becomes extremely difficult to breathe. On top of this, the heart begins to work overtime, and it becomes increasingly difficult to pump blood around the body, which can lead to cardiac arrest. This was something Susie noticed within the first hour of working to free John, a distinct rattling noise coming from his chest, a clear sign that fluid was pooling in John's lungs. He was already starting to asphyxiate.
Oh my God. Can you imagine feeling that? I mean, when you're upside down, you feel all the pressure go to your nose and your sinuses and your head and everything. But to be down there for that long and it start, oh my God, rattling in your chest and everything. Oh, this is an uncomfortable watch.
That fluid was pooling in John's lungs. He was already starting to asphyxiate. The rescue team decided that the immediate goal should be to get John out of his dangerous position to alleviate the pressure on his lungs. The team got to work immediately to install the first system of ropes and pulleys, but they quickly ran into several problems. John's legs and feet couldn't bend back around the curve of the shaft he had slipped into. On top of this, the lip of rock that he had breathed in to slip past was catching on his chest. It was, as one official put it, the worst possible place to be stuck. Nonetheless, the team managed to hoist him up enough to elevate his...
Look at that! Why would you try and go down a hole like that? Why?
Possible place to be stuck. Nonetheless, the team managed to hoist him up enough to elevate his position slightly and administer IV. Unfortunately, just moments later, this first pulley system failed, and John slid back down into his original spot. At this point, John was swinging in between a state of calm and panic, and so a decision was made to bring a two-way cable radio into the cave so that John could speak with his wife. The conversation was tense, but it did serve to keep him calm enough for the next system of ropes and pulleys to be installed. Finally, after 19 hours, a team of 8 were ready to pull.
19 hours. That's 5 hours off of a full day, upside down, trapped with your arms by your side. It's making me feel terrible.
But there was a problem. Each pull was agonizing for John, and the team had to pause several times to avoid breaking his legs. And then, a glimmer of hope. On the third pull, John was lifted up high enough to make eye contact with his rescuer, who later commented that his eyes were red, his face was dirty, but that he seemed fine otherwise. When the rescuer asked him how he was, John said, "It sucks. I'm upside down. I can't believe I'm upside down. My legs are killing me." The rescuer saw that even though John was complaining, he had a smile on his face. And then...
I don't know how. Maybe it's the years of experience of climbing into these caves and, you know, getting stuck in various positions and having to be pulled out by your friend or whatever. You know what I mean? You're used to that sort of... but I mean, to be upside down and stuck.
I saw that even though John was complaining, he had a smile on his face. And then, on what was to be the fourth pull, disaster struck.
That they have a raising system that was helping to hold him in position. One of the devices as part of that system failed, and Mr. Jones actually ended up falling back into the area where he had been stuck for so long.
The system had failed. The entire team fell backwards. When the team regained composure, they realized that the worst thing imaginable had happened. A bolt that was drilled into one of the cave's walls had come out, causing part of the cave to crumble. This had hit the lead rescuer in the face, causing him to momentarily black out. And, worst of all, John had slid back down into the crevice and had now become completely unresponsive. With the rescuer closest to John now needing medical attention, a second lead rescuer took his place.
Oh my God, so you've got the safety of the team as well. The guy at the front who got hit in the head is like knocked out. He's fell back and so on, become unresponsive. I imagine he broke his neck. He's got to have done. If he's just suddenly become unresponsive, it's got to be... Oh, what a way to go, man.
Crevice and had now become completely unresponsive. With the rescuer closest to John now needing medical attention, a second lead rescuer took his place. Satisfied that John was in fact still breathing, in a state of desperation, the new rescuer somehow managed to slip a rope around John's waist. But he himself became stuck and needed help from other members of the team, sustaining multiple injuries in the process. A third lead rescuer made a last-ditch attempt to free John by desperately drilling away the rock around him, but it was no use. The entire team was exhausted. John was barely breathing and was still unresponsive. He had gone into cardiac arrest, and tragically, there was nothing anyone could do.
I mean, once you go into cardiac arrest, you need attention straight away. You need compressions. You need electric machines. And they're not going to get him out anytime soon. That's, oh my God, what a way. Oh.
Arrest, and tragically, there was nothing anyone could do. It was at this point that John's wife Emily was informed of the situation. John was technically alive, but unconscious. In her desperation, she believed that he could still survive the ordeal and continue to radio down. In one of her final communications with John, she said, "I know you've been pushing so hard for so long. Why don't you rest for a minute and take a break, and then you can push again."
Wow. Oh. Trying to be positive for him and everything and all that. It's this is a heartbreaking story, and obviously it's wow. It's it feels like a story that deeply affects you. I mean, not just the people who's involved. I mean, even watching it makes me feel like, damn.
Why don't you rest for a minute and take a break, and then you can push again. At this point, whilst they couldn't officially confirm it, rescuers suspected the worst. And so, a brave paramedic was sent down to take a pulse, confirming what everyone had suspected. At 11:56 p.m. on the 25th of November 2009, John Edward Jones was pronounced dead 28 hours after he had initially become stuck. Emily...
So, they got the petition to get the cave open earlier that year in 2009. I don't know anyone who's died, etc. And then a few months later, how bad must they feel?
Pronounced dead 28 hours after he had initially become stuck. Emily was initially in complete disbelief. She refused to believe that her husband could die from such a simple mistake, and did not accept that a pulse taken from the leg could indicate that he was dead. Eventually, officials managed to calm her down, agreeing that they would do everything in their power to remove her husband's body from the cave. Not wanting to let a grieving widow down, the team discussed what was reported to be some rather distasteful plans to get John's body out, but this would prove to be impossible. Even if they were able to free John, his lifeless body would not be able to twist properly in order to be fully removed from the cave.
Yeah, because they were saying that you breathe in and stuff to get past certain parts of it. I don't know how this is fun for people.
At least not intact. It was decided, given everything that had transpired, that it was simply too dangerous for the rescue team to attempt to remove his body. And so, a decision was made to seal the entrance of the cave with concrete, with John's body inside, forever.
What?
John's family had a plaque installed on the entrance of the cave in his memory. Later, the family would release a statement where they said that John Edward Jones, husband, father, and paediatric cardiologist in training, would be remembered for his, quote, good nature, delightful sense of humour, strong work ethic, a genuine love of people, a masterful ability to relate to children, a love of and unwavering faith in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and his commitment to his family as an amazing husband, father, son, and brother. To this day, John's remains are still inside the cave, serving as a harrowing reminder of the very real risks of cave exploration. This is the Real Horror Channel, the place for all things really horrifying. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll be back with more real horror soon.
Wow, go subscribe, guys, if you like that video. But I can't believe his body's still down there. That put an extra bit of edge on the story. I won't lie to you, watching that felt very, very uncomfortable, and I can see why, with the horror theme that we did, that this is why this was put forward to me, because watching that was hard. It was hard to watch. Seeing them little holes that people crawl through. Why? I mean, if one side, do you know what? If one side of that cave was safe and one side was uncharted, which they did, where that place was where he said he thought he was going through the birth canal and he was actually going right instead of left, why don't they just go down there and block that bit up, that uncharted bit up, block that up? And then people can still go in the cave and they know that they're not going to go the wrong way, instead of just shutting it all off. You know what I mean? They could fill that side in. But I mean, regardless of that what a sad story. I mean, I can't imagine being stuck upside down for, 19 hours before he lost his consciousness. I mean, so he wouldn't have known anything after that. But still, being pinned in like that, oh man, that makes me feel horrible. It makes me feel like I need to go outside so I've got more space. That was harrowing. But I mean, it was interesting as well at the same time. It was addictive to watch. You want to know what happens, but it really got you in the feels. Wow. Okay, if you like this sort of content, then let me know and we'll do some more stories like this. Anyway, if you like my videos, then please hit like and subscribe. I shall see you on the next one.